Virgo. I'm Susan. I'm your intuitive, and this is your Taurus season, May 2025 love and money reading. We're going to get into love and then money. For Virgo risings, Mars has been transiting your 12th house. We will definitely get into that at some point, regardless if the Leo cards come out, because I'm sure it has been and can be exhausting. And also aggravating, frustrating, annoying, some of you anxiety ridden, or you're seeing now what perhaps the surface of anxiety is, and like you're being able to explore or being guided to explore that, whether you know it or not, because whatever feeling, whether you're in a relationship or not, whatever feeling, it could be being out of control, that can come up in many kind of ways, like, or not having control, which is coming up a lot. And realizing that what you can control most likely will be what you'll only ever be able to control. And if you do focus on that, then life, especially love, won't feel as hard. However, if you do have a deeply held pattern of that sense of control, surrendering can feel very scary. Or it can, meaning, what does that mean? For some people who don't literally feel fear, what you're feeling is your trauma response, because that is the fear that's what fear would look like within you. If you're able to understand, even if you don't, for those of you who don't think like, you're like, I don't think that's it. If your love life has continued to be the same or has had issues, or if you're not meeting anyone, I heard this story recently and I forgot where it was from. So I'm like, is it? Oh yeah. So I love Kabbalah. I talk about Kabbalah. I heard this story about this guy who teaches Kabbalah, and he was talking to two different people, and he was saying, like, asking the two women, and this, you don't have to be a woman, but this is the experience of people. Two women about their dating experience, and one woman was like, okay, well, like, she's complaining about it, she's not meeting anyone, guys are all this, or what her experience has been, and then he asks her to finish the sentence. Men are what? And if you're whatever you identify as, if you're a man, women are what? They are what? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? That woman particularly, I think, said men are like stupid or some shit. We'll just roll with that. If that's what you think that they are, and that's like the first thing, that's the subconscious thing. It takes consciousness to pause, to take a moment and see, is that how you really feel, or is that how you're reacting to the situation? And the other woman said, she has a great experience. She's always meeting like really amazing kinds of men. And she did the same exercise. Men are what? And she said, they're wonderful, they're amazing, they're this, they're that. And I think that I even have, and as a Virgo Venus, I have had to go through my phases, but I knew I wanted partnership, even though, not to get into my dating history. And I know people say that and then get into it. I'm not going to, but what I'm going to say is there has been a huge shift when, depending, and even through the course of the long-term relationship that I'm in, I have had to do subconscious shifts with things I didn't realize, which makes you attract the right person to bring that stuff out in you, right? We learn something from, I believe, that I'm always learning from the people that are, especially in my most immediate environment, people who I'm closest to. Even if you wouldn't think this person's your friend, it's a coworker, if you're with them a lot, they're reflecting back to you something. And it all depends on how like personal you get and all that. So if the more personal you get, the more you'll see. But if not, then you'll just see that version, right? Because, Some people have boundaries at work. Everybody's way of life and where you're at is different. And what I'm saying to you with all of that is saying, like, whatever's coming up now, especially in the ways that you act and communicate within that action, not just how you speak. Mars is action. Mars is communication, but what are you communicating through your actions, through your patterns? What are you noticing about your patterns that you once didn't? They're coming out, and that's why I'm talking about this. It's coming out, and it may be showing up at work, maybe showing up in places where, for you, specifically, at times, it's better for you to be working, noticing something, and letting it process while you work, because for people who work with you, whether you give a fuck about this or not, the people around you will most likely see you as less tense or feel less tense around you, because Virgo has been deemed the most complex of us all by me, yours truly. Yes, we're having a chat today. And I have Virgo moon and Venus, so I just want to spend some time with you guys, because as someone who, I know that you're most likely in a different place, but I know that when you're alone and in the safe places, feelings are feeling pivotal. They're feeling pivotal. It's feeling big. You feel the undertow of the eclipses already. You have Mars in your 12th house for some of you. And basically the King of Wands, Page of Cups is saying you're being offered in very clear interactions and situations this possibility to shift the way that you respond and perceive. Why would I do that? Virgo asks. Well, it may help you in your love life, because there may be judgments that come up before you even, and I'm not saying this happens all the time, but with Leo in your 12th house, it's going to bring up stuff that's been hidden, and hidden enemies even. Like, you'll realize, like, where you may have been even your own worst enemy, right? So at this time, I think that recognizing that within yourself, and recognizing not that you overtly care about that, it's more just like the control. Like, what is it about you that you're still controlling? And it could be for protection, but then what is it that you're doing to shift the environment that you're in? Because we'll definitely talk about work. And with love, are you going to the same places, right? Maybe you have to try new places, and it's not necessarily the place. That's not it. It's about the control. It's about being out of your element, noticing that experience. I'm not saying you're going to meet someone there. You could, but you're exploring this safer way of approaching what this could look like. And if you're partnered with someone, you may have to communicate a lot more than you normally like to about these kinds of things. But what you'll notice is that wherever you're overcompensating for in the relationship might be very much healed because of the way that you've been and are continuing to communicate at this time. Because what this control, or what this demanding side of either your nature or the person that you're with, whatever you're experiencing, is really just a cover, right? It's a cover for not wanting to. It's weirdly enough, earth signs, all signs in their own way. What comes up in Taurus season is a lot. It's beautiful, but this season and what we're experiencing right now within this year has a lot of undercurrent. And what we notice in Taurus season, especially with all of these Aries placements and fire sign placements, is that we can get really comfortable in places because we've adapted to it. And because that was so difficult, why would we want to leave if we put in this much work to adapt to this environment, when that work does not go unscathed no matter what relationship that you're in? And this could be friendships. This could be all different kinds of relationships, the one with yourself. Now that you're safe here in this environment that's maybe unsafe for you, safety might look a hell of a lot easier, but it doesn't look normal. It may feel easier, but it doesn't look normal. And you have to ask yourself, you may be proposed to ask yourself in many ways, what is this asking me to shift within myself? Or is it waking up something in me to move forward in some aspect? And you may look at it in your relationship. It may show up. This may show up in money, right? This may show up in your job as well. But they're doing a back and forth, perhaps. Sorry about that. And this Temperance card is saying that this is going to help balance out whatever it is that you've been wanting to move forward with, whatever it is that you've been and how you've been wanting to plan your future. This is actually what's been the block of planning any future, is being more commanding in terms of your communication. As you're processing, you may be very conscious about this, but you may not even realize that it's really relieving any tension or trouble with your tone. There's a shift in your own, what you thought was your nature, but there's a shift within you this month that actually just stemmed from a lack of control over yourself. You almost see it as like, oh, this has come into my life before, and back then I reacted this way. Even last year I reacted better, like, I learned from that and better than that, but right now I can see that part of myself reacting, but I'm choosing not to lose control because I've been here before. Everything worked out, right? So if there is a power dynamic, if there's a control dynamic, it will and can be solved with communicating, perhaps over communicating at times, and then also recognizing that if you really listen to each other, and I'll get to if you're single, this can help any future conversations. Even if it still feels difficult at times, it will cause you to remember, like, oh, you'll realize like you get just that much better every time. And it's really important for you to have things in your life like that, especially as someone who adapts so well, especially if you're curious, you want an interest, or if you want results, right? If you're a result-oriented Virgo, which this isn't everywhere, but especially with, you want things to maybe be smoother, be better. You may have been too lenient at times, and now you have to put up boundaries that you didn't realize that you needed to put up, especially if this is a long-term thing. And you standing your ground in that way will have you learn to detach from a certain codependency that makes you feel what the other person is feeling, but you need to allow them to feel how they're going to feel, just how like perhaps they allow you to feel however you're going to feel. And compromise isn't supposed to be comfortable for either person. And sometimes, like, the person, whoever is the overgiver in some way, it'll feel difficult to pull back, right? It'll feel, sorry, I have all these baby hairs. It'll feel difficult perhaps to feel back or pull back or uncomfortable. So it's recognizing, communicating effectively, regardless of what emotions come up. It's knowing that you can work through it and choose to operate, in this way in the future. To continue to operate in a way that sees each other's view, and then you're able to process a lot more vast. So this, like, even just like one relationship, or you're single and you're dating, and these experiences are bringing you to realize the control over your emotions, how that actually affects your life, how you can go back and forth with things, what you're comfortable with risking, what you're not. And you're going to be able to see the limitations within you if you learn to really sit with yourself. You're going to be able to see this play out with you. And have you really learned something deeply neat and intricate about you, Virgo? And this is about the relationship with yourself, with your significant other, whomever it is that you're choosing to date at this time, even your friendships, your relationships, and how sometimes this is, maybe you feel like you're giving a lot in one area and it's not helping your health it's not effective, and we're about to get into money and your energy. Sometimes putting your energy into relationships or putting your energy somewhere else can relieve whatever pressure you feel at work, because you realize like you're not alone in the world. There's people to connect with. Like there's a part of you that even though Mars is in your 12th, you may want to feel alone or want to be alone, or you feel like you're better alone, but really it'll be really good for you to have laughs this month. They'll be really good for you to have human moments more than ever, of course. Before I get into the love section, all information, or money section, all information to work with me one-on-one is below. I have my website available, scheduling options, payment options, and the Patreon link to the second part of this reading is also below. That's the first link. I just need some water. I will always have lime or lemon in my water. I love it. Lime is so good. I know you like those tidbits. Look into it. So all information is below. Patreon link where we get much deeper into the cards. This is a very much a forward movement month, even if it doesn't feel externally at first. It starts internally, and it starts with communicating. This is about you revealing who you are. So roll with me here. We're just chatting a lot about insights and how they relate to Virgo, and how you, but also like the insights and how deeply insightful they are, because you're that way. You're deeply insightful. And it's about learning to be that way about yourself more than ever. All these Aries placements are like, hey, like this is where we learn about ourselves. This is now the time. If you needed a time for permission to not feel guilty, or, you know, and not feeling that way will actually loosen up the energy with anyone that you haven't been able to see, or any way in which you've been feeling guilty or whatever it is, or other people like project that on you. Relieving that tension can actually relieve the subconscious energy in the relationships, and all of this in your 8th house for Virgo risings: death, mental health, other people's resources, investments, your partner's resources if you have one. And it's about privacy as well. And there's more to it, but all of that is deep. It's very deep. And communicating is required. It just will be, and already is. And it's like you're taking a stand to yourself over and over again to heal the parts that no longer need to be, the programming no longer need to be set up in the way that it's set up in your mind, because there's this part of you, ooh, I'm sorry, my nose is itchy. While we wait for my nose to stop being itchy and red, there's this part of you. This is also talking about Pluto. This is also talking about Taurus season. Right, there's this part of you that, what was I going to say before? It'll probably come out during the Pluto. That's why it got brought up. So, Pluto going retrograde in your 6th house, opposing your 12th house, which we have been talking about. How do you want to work? How can this job or whatever you're doing right now, how can this experience show you how you would like to work in the future? And how can you start transitioning into that now? Because that future job is here. It will be here before you know it. That future income will be here before you know it. This season is bringing you to a place with yourself where you can really reshape the way you think about money, the way you think about work, the way you think about healing and health. The more authentic you become, and now I remember what I was going to say, is that what I want you to imagine at times, and I know this can get really in depth, but this is like how a reading would be. So I take things and simplify them, and I see things that could potentially help you. That is the Virgo in me and the Scorpio in me, mixy things. The Virgo packaging it in the Libra packaging it in something that all these different components come together perfectly. So what I would say is that you can imagine yourself slowly like deshackling yourself and see yourself. I had this image today of like, you really are just like an image of myself today, seeing myself like be relieved and singing and dancing and just moving in a way that feels really good, and just like, it's just a vision of being seen. And when you envision yourself like that and who you really are, regardless of any external anything, you can feel that. And then when you think about yourself right after, and you think about who you are now, and it like how you become that person, or what is it that's weighing on me from being this person, from being seen more, right? Because you're getting the attention, you're going to be getting the attention regardless. And these transits, they can help us really utilize and heal and transform through them if we want. I feel like that's what the energy is. That's what the light of the energy of the constellations, I feel like, are. And Mercury is also there making magic. And the reason why this is all this preparation and deep healing that can be transforming for you is because it's transforming you into realizing that whatever's been shown to you, even if it's been in a physical way where you've seen something like, oh my God, like I definitely want that, or I see that, you just feel like, oh yeah, like this, I know this is meant, like I know like this is like my thing, my aesthetic, I know I'm meant to do this, those really innate feelings. You're preparing yourself for this very expansive idea. And no matter your Virgo placements, it's breaking down this control within you, and realizing how deep it goes, especially within your mind. The Empress wears the crown in this season, that wants to show you that your vulnerabilities and you being purely yourself, and whatever shackles you to not being that is constructed. It's been, placed on you at times, and you've absorbed it through protection and through whatever programming you have today, but your mind is holding it in place because it's deeply uncomfortable, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, to switch that, even if it's positive for you, even if it's for a better place. So you being able to imagine that better place, that's been said a lot, visualization. This for you is going to be impactful. Seeing that and feeling that viscerally is something that you know how to do. That's why I understand, you know how to understand. And you may not realize that that's something that you strive for at times. And a part of you may want to understand what it's like to be this kind of person, to be someone who can delegate. That's that control. You need to learn to delegate. You need to learn to allow people to rise the occasion, because that a part of you can think like, are you looking down on them because they can't do it? Yeah, it's a Virgo thing to control, but why do we constrict ourselves to these general things? You don't like being placed in a box, so let's unbox this. You don't have to be that way. You can be a great leader in a way where you let others rise to the occasion, and you watch them go through that discomfort to learn to grow. Is there something in you? And I know maybe they're not right for the job. Maybe they're, whatever it is. But authentically, are you not doing it because if you have control, it's easier? And that's something you have to ask yourself. It's something that there's a few signs, but especially you. And I'm going to bring it down because I understand. Mercury's like, you can't control magic. You're magic. You're deeply magic. And you can't control magic. You can't control your magic, or else your magic and your luck is hidden from you. No more. I want to know, of course I wrote that down, but I didn't write down where. Oh my God, I'm funny. It would be, oh yeah, makes so much sense. Duh. Okay, we're going to talk more about your 10th house too in the next part for sure. But essentially, your work life is showing where you may need to delegate if you want to be able to make more money, because it's just training you for the future. Even if you don't love where you're at and you're like, well, no, be that now. Or start applying to different placements, different positions, start creating something new where you have control, be in a creative control where you don't feel like you need to have it in that area of your life, because holding on isn't always a sign of care, or in control isn't always a sign of care. It's a sign of like my not wanting to see and know that something different in your life wants to approach, and you're like totally turned off from seeing that when you're in control, because something's like it's almost like the Four of Cups should be out, but that's what this King of Wands back turned to the page is. And it's possible that there's a part of you that's afraid of maybe being emotional, and like you don't even know you're doing it. I'm not saying that sometimes, Virgo, there are things that I know that you know you're doing, and that's the control, but it's why. It's not just who you are. My light keeps fucking up now that I'm like deeply having this conversation with you. Virgo's like, shut up. Don't look at us. Don't look at us. Listen, it's been difficult. It's been difficult. It has been difficult for me as well with these placements. And I wasn't assuming this about you, but really like these majors are just guiding you to more fortune, more good with your life, your career, a role that you get to leave behind for some of you. And in the next year, you're going to find yourself consistently in different environments, or in the environment you like would prefer to be in. If that's the same place, it's going to feel different because you said, okay, all right, creator, God, source, whatever it is for you. Okay, I will listen. I will listen. I will try my best to now uncomplicate everything I've just made complicated to suit my control. Okay. Well, just know that Taurus season is down for the job. They're down to be supportive. This can change rather rapidly, because once you realize like how you feel when you're purely in the energy of you'll realize that you've only been protecting that. That's all you've been protecting. But it's like saving that outfit. What are you saving it for? Maybe someone does have it, but like make it a special occasion. You know how to. You do that for people so well. This is about your life though. And this change of heart that you have is like Leo ruled by the heart in the back. This support you learn to have with the divine or with the creator, with that then begins to develop even deeper with the people around you, because you already do trust them, but there's a big thing here, just like, and it's about being vulnerable right now. It's about transforming through this vulnerability. It's about doing that groundwork and realizing that it's always going to need a little love once in a while. And as you reconnect with yourself, it transforms your life. And once you allow that surrender, like, can you allow a little surrender? Like, even if it's just a little, and maybe you just ask, like, what does it look like? And it's, doing some emotional lifting. Maybe it's like, I need to do some shit physically for my body, and that feels uncomfortable, but it's time to do it. It's going to keep calling you, preparing you. Like, when someone just stares at you with love and you're like, what? Stop looking at me like that. What? Yeah. Well, I'm having a similar conversation with Libra, so if you want to hang out and listen to Libra, just know that the restructuring has been happening and now you're just seeing something really up close. Really up close. And really important. Because you're important. Your needs are important. Support is important. Love is important. I know. I know. Roll your eyes all you want, but I know. Listen, good fortune. If good fortune comes from you opening up and you learning to trust and you learning to love just a little bit more, if that's the way good fortune comes in now, you're like, well, why is that so, why does that feel like it should be easy? You're an anomaly, you know? What am I gonna say? It's okay for certain things to be easy, including this part. At least some things, you know, before your eclipses. All right. There's a lot on your table. You have a lot to look at. You have a lot of insight, a lot of grounding, a lot of space to command. And you're preparing for it. You're preparing your mind. And healing your mind. And it's just another layer depending on the layer that you're at. And I just want you to know that it's okay to not know. It's okay to maybe just want to understand yourself a little bit more. And maybe you did. And maybe now you're changing, you know, mutable earth. You can't look around and be like, I see, you're not gonna see yourself in others unless they're a mirror or another Virgo. It's just, that's just how it is. Okay, we're gonna get into the next part. All the links are below. We'll see you next month. Bye, Virgo.